So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the analysis of YOLENO TV. I hope you're well from wherever you watch this channel. I'd like to start this session by appreciating you so much for making this channel grow. If you wish to support us, just subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. So, you understand that yesterday, William Samoei Ruto completed his 5 days tour of the coastal region. This tour saw William Ruto go to Lamu, Mombasa, Kilifi, Kwale, and a host of other places within those regions. During this tour, something that most people didn't know happened. I want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that most of the time when William Ruto tours places, such as these ones, like in the coast region, there is always intelligence report that is given back before that tour. And the intelligence report is always regarding the hostilities of that region. If the region is perceived to be hostile, you find that most of the time William Ruto will not tour that place because of the image that can be or might be portrayed as a result of that trip. Most of the time, like the case of Migori or Homa Bay, you find that there was that video that surfaced about a certain UDA affiliate person who was dishing out thousands to the people who were supposed to fill that meeting, because the idea here was to get as many people as possible waje kwa ule mkutano wa William Ruto ili sionekane kwamba kuna ile etwa resistance on the ground. But something bizarre happened in Mombasa where there was a heckling, where William Ruto was giving out promises. He gave out a lot of promises. Of course, there's that issue of Fort Runner, the car assembling project, which he unveiled. Of course, there are so many other places, so many other projects, processing projects, ambayo ali unveil. But hizi video nyingi ambazo zilikuwa zinaonyeshwa, kuna zile area where people were not happy, hazikuwa zinaonyeshwa. Like there is this particular video where watu walikuwa na shout unga, bei ya chakula, bei ya sukari, bei ya nini. And in that place, you can see this video that I'm sharing. In fact, let me just share this video first. So that video, if you look at it very carefully, that video ni ya watu ambao hawana raha. Au ni watu ambao rais anasema nitatengeneza kazi 5,000, like he made that promise of 5,000 jobs. They were only focused on bei za bidhaa. I want to tell you something here, without fear of contradiction, that ili swala la housing levy, swala la nyumba. Because, when William Ruto took this narrative to coast, because unajua coast, kuna hustlers wengi kusema ukweli, na watu wengi wana survive on mijengo, kazi za mijengo, hizi kazi za mikono, watu wengi pia wana survive on that. Watu wengi walikuwa wanafanya kwa hizi EPZs, export processing zones, hizi za kushona manguo, na hizo kazi, ladies and gentlemen, hizo kazi saizi zimeenda chini. There are companies ambazo zilifunga because of the NSSF policy that the employer was supposed to share particular, employer alikuwa ilipandishwa, so employer initially it was I think 200, yeah, 200 for employer, 200 for employee. It has always been like that. But then when this other policy was forced on the employers, ilikuwa sasa employer atakuwa hana pesa, yeye atakuwa ni kulipa tu ushuru, kulipa ushuru. So pay as you earn was increased, hiyo ilikuwa increased. Then the NHIF was increased, and an NHIF increment on NHIF ilikuwa inakuja na affect ile net pay, because if I agree with you that mimi utakuwa nalipa 50,000, for example, just an example, and that the net pay, that is the net pay as according to our agreement. So that means if the government decides to renege on the taxation agreements, iamue kwamba sahi NSSF itakuwa ni 3,000 na sio 1,000 ama sio 200, the person who is most likely going to be affected is the employer, because the employee, when they were negotiating with the employer, they negotiated on a net pay. My net pay will be 50,000 regardless. So you, the employer, is the one who's going to do some multiplication on additions and the subscriptions and the like to make sure that this employee gets the 50,000 which you agreed with the employee on. So unapata kwamba watu wengi kwa pwani wamekosa kazi kwa sababu ya hili swala la export EPZs, clothing EPZs kufungwa na zimefungwa. So the few companies ambao bado are still operating, unapata kwamba mtu ana work siku 3 kwa wiki, so wanapishana, unafanya siku 3, mwenzako anafanya siku 3. So in a month utafanya siku 3 utakuwa umefanya siku 12 in a month. So you'll be paid based on the 12 days you worked for. So that's why the people did not want to hear anything of like 5,000 jobs to the youths, courtesy of the housing fund, the housing project. So hawakutaka kusikia hilo swala, ndio maana walikuwa wanasema unga. So William Ruto was heckled. You see, there's a time there when Raila Amolo Odinga toured the coast, he labeled William Ruto as Mr. Promise. Why? Because whenever William Ruto went to coast, he could dish out promises. He dished out so many promises to a level where by now there was nothing to promise. Like for the case of, let me just take you through some of the promises he made previously.
How come that fuel in Uganda is cheaper than fuel in Kenya? So, and yet the fuel being sold in Uganda goes through Kenya.
Ya Saudi Arabia mwaka huu wanahitaji vijana 10,000. Tumekubaliana na waziri wa kutoka kule Saudi Arabia leo ya kwamba tutapata nafasi milioni moja ya vijana wa taifa letu la Kenya.
I wanted to sample those few promises to just get you up to speed with some of the promises William Ruto used to make. So this tour of the coast, I don't know whether it was successful according to you. I'd like to urge you to kindly comment below the comment section there whether you think according to you that the tour was successful, because the promises which William Ruto made looks like the people are not taking any of them. They didn't like the promises, because if that's not the case, then why were they heckling? I want to remind you also again that just like I said when I started this analysis, that kuna regions zingine unaona kama wakati ambapo cameraman uchukua ile audience ya William Ruto, most of them they just take pale mbele whereby VIP wamekaa hapo mbele, pale wa VIP wamekaa hapo kwa podium hapo mbele, lakini kule nyuma wale wanaonungunika wao wachukuliwi. Na ikiwa watachukuliwa, ikiwa video itawachukua, during editing that part huwa inakatwa. So you find that most of the time the only place you get to understand or you get this kind of information is normally on the YouTube. That's when you find that those unfiltered footages zinapatikana, like the case of hii ambayo nimeshare. Hiyo case ya hiyo event ikifanyika hapo, unapata kwamba hapo William Ruto alikuwa anatoka. Looks like the crowd has started to get hostile. So because of that hostility which was being seen there, ilibidi rais atoke tu. Ilibidi atoke kwa sababu ingekuwa ni aibu. Because you see, it starts slowly, inaenda polepole, ikienda polepole, alafu nasikia everybody is shouting. And if that happens, you might find yourself in a scenario by now, tear gas zinarushwa, polisi wanaingizwa pale, wanapiga watu kama kawaida, so that in future you don't say anything when the president is talking. That is a very bad message. No, that is the kind of message that was being sent. It's the message that the people in Coast were sending to William Ruto, perhaps for him to look at the issue very well. It is not just about promises anymore. Looks like to me that interprets people who are not probably, believing these promises anymore, or people who are not ready to take these promises anymore, or people are merely trying to tell William Ruto that look here, sisi tuko na manyumba kule bara, wewe tupunguzia tu bei ya vitu zingine tutajishughulikia, tumezoea kutafuta kazi wenyewe, si lazima serikali tutafutie kazi, wewe tupunguzia tu bei ya bidhaa, the rest tutashughulikia wenyewe. So probably I think that was like the message being portrayed there in that heckling thing, the whole issue of heckling. So ladies and gentlemen, kindly tell us below the comment section there what you think about this all drama that occurred there, the heckling and the like. Also, I'd like to kindly urge you, if you're a first time viewer or a regular viewer who's not subscribed, to please consider subscribing to this channel and help this channel grow. If you are watched this video, just consider giving us a like so that this video can get shared to other audiences. So also like to urge you to stay safe, stay blessed until you catch up again in our next analysis.